Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and welcome to our talk number 8 in the Connect Them All series. So it's a great honor to have Wienke today from the Things industry to present about the state of LoRaWAN and the IoT ecosystem. So for someone like me that have been around for long, since the time of wireless sensor networks, where the range of these devices was extremely limited, and it was really hard to work with different vendors and different companies. The revolution that TTN and the Things industry brought to the whole community has been really a game changer. So I'm really happy about this talk today. So just a short intro. So Wienke is the initiator of the Things network, the first crowdsourced free and open Internet of Things community, I would say. And the network was set up in 6 weeks in Amsterdam, making it the first smart city in the world. And he also serves as the CEO of the Things Industries. We will learn more about that in his talk, a LoRaWAN solutions provider. So again, thank you for accepting our invitation. And the floor is yours for your presentation.
Thank you very much. I'll start the presentation now, and yeah, very happy to welcome any questions that you have, Marco, during the presentation. So let's make this an open session. And I don't know if the students can ask questions, but yeah, feel free to interrupt me. So thanks for the nice introduction. As Marco said, I'm Wienke Giezeman, CEO and co-founder of the Things Industries. I founded the Things Industries together with my business partner, Johan Stocking, 7 years ago. And our company is all about LoRaWAN. And you've been learning about wireless sensor networks. So probably you've heard about LoRaWAN, but just a little recap, because this technology is the foundation of this presentation, is that LoRaWAN is a technology, a network routing protocol that uses the LoRa RF technology, and the LoRa RF technology is special because it can send small pieces of data over a long distance at a very low power, creating the economics for a sensor network to provide sensor readings for solutions that do not kind of have where you cannot have base stations and gateways very close to the sensors, and where you can make sure that the maintenance is very low because you don't need to replace the batteries every few months. So that's in a nutshell what the technology is. I'll tell you all about what our customers are doing with this, what our ecosystem partners are doing with it, as well as students and anybody that wants to get started with this technology. We started a company in 2015, and we started with the Things network. We saw the LoRaWAN technology. I saw in 2015 when it was launched, and we just got started with it, and we joined the LoRa Alliance. We saw that it was at the moment very immature, and we saw that there was kind of a path needed towards kind of adoption and also making it easier to work with LoRaWAN. So we started to build tools and networks, and we did even a Kickstarter with hardware. We allowed developers to collaborate on our platform, building solutions and networks together. And that was the Things network. And the Things network has grown out to an ecosystem, an IoT ecosystem of almost 200,000 IoT developers all across the world building networks and solutions. And what we always say is that that's the R&D phase. That's the phase where there's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of excitement, a lot of fun. But the goal is to make something that actually utilizes the technology, which is beneficial for a business or for a certain cause. But there has to be a business case. And what we say, we help you from 0 to 1 with a lot of content and a lot of support. And we help you with the Things network, and with the Things Industries, we help you from 1 to 1 million. And this is where our business model is. So that's where we make money and where we make the business model sustainable. And I'll tell you all about that, how that kind of great balance works there. So for you as a student, everything is completely free on the Things network. For a business, there are business tools and business services that we provide on the Things industries, and it all revolves around our product called the Thinkstack. So if you look at LoRaWAN, basically what it did, it creates a bit pipe, right? So you have a few bits over here in a fridge somewhere in a restaurant, and you want and these bits represent, for instance, the temperature reading which you need in your cloud application, because there you're generating food compliancy reports. LoRaWAN is nothing actually more than just a very well managed bit pipe that makes sure that the battery consumption of that sensor stays very long, so it can last 3 to 5 years, and that there is this kind of high level of certainty that these bits will arrive. What you do with it is very diverse. So LoRaWAN is cracking a lot of different nuts, solving a lot of different problems, and after 7 years doing this, I still get surprised every week by a user or a customer that comes up with an idea to use it, and I'm kind of constantly amazed by all the cool things that people build with this very kind of simple bit pipe. Just to give you a few ideas, this is we gathered some showcases on our website, what basically every IoT company does, but the kind of diversity is really big. So think about what you just saw: smart bins, water leak detection, irrigation, soil moisture sensor and irrigation control, smart locks, rodents like smart mouse traps, floods. We have cow trackers. We see that sensors are used for valves in industrial sites, meeting rooms, smart metering for instance, water meters, etc. So it goes on and on and on. We now have 1.4 million devices that are active on our platform, and the diversity is immense. And that's very interesting, because it just shows how promising the technology is. And second of all, it's actually a lot of fun, because we're constantly immersed in this insane amount of innovation, which just is very cool. What we also do is we do a yearly conference. We do several conferences and tracks around the world. This is the one we do in September, 21st and 22nd of September in Amsterdam. We are looking for volunteers, and usually these are students from all around the world. It's a very exciting place to do to become a volunteer. So if you want to join, please just drop me an email. I'll share the details with your tutors, but also just Wienke at thethingsindustrials.com. You can always send me an email, and it would be great to see you there. And you can enjoy the show and also work with the team here, which is pretty cool. Let's dive directly into kind of all the cool things that our customers do. So let's start with this one. This is a company called Salinut, let's keep it here. So Salinut, and what they do is they have sensors, and they put these sensors on the soaps dispensers. And they measure per department how many times the soap dispenser is used. They check that to the amount of people that work there, and then the amount of patients that are. And then they can have a hygiene score per department, for instance, and then lowering the chances of spreading diseases, etc. They also have proximity sensors where they can see how many times the people who work at the hospital actually visited the beds. And that's also pretty cool, because actually that keeps track of if everybody in the hospital actually got enough attention. So this is a really cool use case, and all these sensors are using wireless technology with LoRaWAN. This is Lucy Zodian. Maybe you've seen these smart street lights. They have this little knob on top of them. And if you haven't, from now on, you will kind of notice. And LoRaWAN is also very good for controlling streetlights. So in this case, we help a partner with deploying the network with our software, and they can kind of also broadcast the light plans to the smart street light poles. And specifically when the energy pricing was very, very high last year, they could utilize that by dimming them at certain times, at certain places. The city councils have all kinds of data around, okay, where do people feel safe, where don't they feel safe, where is it safe, where is it not safe. So you can imagine that you want to have this kind of like fine granularity of control where you then kind of turn off the lights, for instance, at night, because you know that actually there's not really a safety concern, but you can save a lot of power. So this is also a very interesting sustainable use case. This is pretty cool. This is a use case, and a customer of ours, they're adding, what they have is sensors that can detect wildfires very early on. And what they say is that wildfires cause around 10% of the global CO2 emissions. And by detecting them early, you can prevent many of them. So they're selling these all around the world. This literally will go into the millions. You can imagine the stakes at place and how relevant it is in 2023. And yeah, it's pretty cool to see that technology working.
So can I interrupt you just a second for a question?
Sure.
Exactly about this application. This is super, super cool. Question is, so the TTN and things industry, they're based on having gateways, right? That people share and that people deploy. So what about an application like this one, where just in this picture, right? You see some wood. So where would people place the gateway? And the kind of follow-up question is, do you have any kind of satellite-based applications where these, gateways are connected to satellite?
Yeah. So the beauty of LoRaWAN is that it can kind of be very, very diverse. So you can put up a private network. So the majority of our users use their own gateway. And gateway sharing is a nice feature, but typically you don't see that if you run a business case on it, using somebody else's gateway or using a public network is either interesting or kind of very beneficial. So it's all kind of dedicated private networks. These companies are putting these networks in place as well. And then you have satellite. And this is kind of a very interesting, innovative, and a space where kind of a lot of companies that are exploring and to see if they can make the business models and the technology work. This is still in its infancy. We see that it works. At the moment, we don't see the scale yet, but it's very, very promising, and it's something that we support, and we're working with multiple partners to explore this technology and to not only make it work on the workbench, but actually make it work in reality. And these are two different things. What I said, right, from 0 to 1 and 1 to a million. It is a significantly kind of different way that you would offer it. So it's interesting developments.
So for this specific application, they would have their own gateways, I would imagine, on cell towers to cover this wide area, or okay.
Yeah, it depends, right? So typically forests are interesting for the specific of this use case. How they do that really differs per deployment. What they also did is they added an extra layer on top of it where they have additional mesh technology and where they use it as well. But it's really proprietary to this application.
Very interesting. Okay, thanks.
Cool. So this is a customer, Asec. And this is a more kind of simple and kind of very, very effective use case. What they do is CO2 sensors in public schools in Canada. Very cool use case where they can tell the schools when they need to ventilate or not. There's all kinds of scientific evidence around the need of fresh air when you are studying and where you need to concentrate. And there's around 90, almost 50,000 of these CO2 sensor sites. It is a really big deployment, and they did it all at once. and yeah, this is also typically kind of a customer we have. Then this is a exciting use case. What you can also do with LoRaWAN is that you can connect smart meters, electricity, gas, water. Typically, when you have gas meters, they are not powered, right? There's no active power source on your kind of analog gas meter. One of our customers, Connexin, has landed many very cool projects, and they have now one where they landed around 150,000 smart water meters with a water metering company, and they're pushing this quite heavily forward, and this saves a kind of a lot of money on kind of doing manual readings, but also the big data that comes from it is very interesting, because now all of a sudden you have near real-time data of all your water meters, so you can do a lot of data crunching on it. For instance, detecting leaks, or seeing if there's inefficiency, seeing if there's theft. So that's very exciting. So this is a use case where you see that LoRaWAN is used in smart buildings. So Morgan Sindel is a group that invests in social housing projects in the UK, and what they've done is they've installed for maintenance several sensors that can detect, for instance, humidity, where you can kind of detect mold, or you can detect all kinds of, like, for instance, things that go wrong in the ventilation systems that can give kind of quite hazardous environments. They have the field services, and these sensors directly control these field services management kind of tasks, etc. Here's where you see is our customer Spacewell, who's using it in many offices around the world. So they have an office management platform, a facility management platform, and what they do is they have a system here. Let me just go right through this. They, for instance, detect also air quality, but also desk occupancy. They have all kinds of sensors for kind of doors that are open and closed. They use little traffic lights, all controlled by LoRaWAN. And the beauty of it is it's really an extension to their existing platform. It's pretty cool how this all works. So what drives all this kind of innovation and kind of awesome use case? And this is just a subset, right? We have hundreds of customers that together deploy around 1.4 million devices, and it's called the Thinkstack. It's the core of our product, our core product. We offer it in very different ways. If you, as a student, want to test it, you can go to the thingsnetwork.org. As a business, you go to the thingsindustries.com, and then you can boot up a Thinkstack enterprise account. It's pretty simple. You get in. You log in. And we have all kinds of ways to do that. And basically, that's where you see your applications, your devices, your gateways, your integrations, and basically everything you need to control your LoRaWAN network and deliver the data into an integration. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So let me ask you something. I mean, I know the answer, but I know that many, kind of newcomers to the Thinkstack ask that question. So what about visualization? So you have, live data there on the left, so you see the data. Yeah. But people usually ask, okay, can I produce a graph coming from my sensors? Yeah. And so what's the idea behind, not being able to do that using the Thinkstack?
So we don't do that because there are many platforms that can do that much better. So there's a lot of platforms out there that can do data visualization. And data with visualization typically is not it's not an IoT competence, right? It's more of an application enablement competence. So from an IT perspective, we see that. Also, we see that data visualization is mostly something that it is a very expensive way of doing IoT at scale, because visualization requires somebody to log in. So let's say that an IT ops engineer or somebody that has the capability to look at a graph costs in the industry around 100 euros an hour. So it is a very expensive way to do IoT if you do visualization, because it implies that you need a human. When IoT scales, you don't see visualization. You just see that data is delivered in the ERP systems. So data visualization is always an intermediate step, and it's nice for R&D and exploration, but we barely see that as something that drives a business case, because it's so incredibly expensive.
Super. So we have one question from the audience, and asking about deployments and secure transmission of data. And so the question is, does LoRaWAN provide secure transmission of data? And I may add to that something else. So some of the examples you showed were indoor application, like the hospital or the offices. So what's the reason to use LoRaWAN versus using Wi-Fi?
Yeah, so two questions. So first of all, the security is end-to-end AES 128. So it goes, the security can go, if you look at this picture, from all the way to the left of the device to all the way to the right. It doesn't use TLS, so the root keys are on secure elements on the devices. And you can decide to use a private joint server to store the root keys yourself. So there's quite some security configurations you can do that fit your use case, right? So what you're saying, there's a lot of use cases indoor. This is where LoRaWAN actually at the moment is where its strength is. The kind of corporate backing that you see of LoRa in the LoRa ecosystem pushed for a narrative that it's going to be run by operators, and that didn't happen. So there's only like 2 or 3 operators in the world that do LoRaWAN nationwide networks, and the majority of these use cases of LoRaWAN is indoor. And the reason to use Wi-Fi, you use LoRaWAN over Wi-Fi, is low power and long range, because Wi-Fi in a building, you still need a lot of gateways, and the range is also very bad. And typically inside of a building, LoRa has a very good penetration kind of way. And the third one is provisioning. So I mean, try anybody to connect something to the Wi-Fi. It's still, after these many years, it's very, very kind of hard to do. And enterprise IoT solutions, you don't have time to put in a Wi-Fi code. You want to have that provisioning automated already before you deploy it, and that's what you can do with LoRaWAN. You don't need to actively enable anything after you install the device. You can do that all before, when you prepare your large-scale deployment.
Super.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the core. This is our core product. We offer that, and we have kind of different components that run it. If you want to have an in-depth kind of knowledge around LoRaWAN, we'll share a LoRaWAN 101. It was done by my business partner Johan and CTO of the Things industries, where you can really go into the details. Here on the left, see the devices and the gateways. We have a device repository, so all the configuration of the devices in the market are there. We also have some hardware boilerplate designs for companies that want to start, or if you're kind of a tinkerer, then hardware tinkerer, then you can do that. The gateways are connected over TLS with the Thinkstack, and there we have all kinds of integrations with enterprise systems, also with all the IT like the cloud companies that have other IoT platforms, and we have all kinds of integrations for enterprise applications, so like single sign-on. You can deploy it on many ways. We have a managed version, which is kind of 99% of the time that's the one you need. So we have customers that run it on premise, on their own Kubernetes, Azure, AWS template. So we basically can do many flavors of deployment. We can even do on ARM infrastructure, as well as, of course, x86 infrastructure. So yeah, we can do a lot of different things there. So we just launched the Network Operations Center, which is a very it gives you in-depth historical and analytical view of your network and your devices. And this is very interesting because if you run a large kind of deployment, you have allocated 0.5 or 1 FTE in DevOps activities to monitor your network, and for them it saves them a lot of time. So then if you look at the adoption, this is actually an old slide, but if you look at the adoption, we're now at 1.4 million devices all across our platforms in different deployment models. And it's growing at a really steady pace. So we're growing at around 50-60% a year on year. The market grows around 25% year on year. And it really feels that it's just getting started. It's going at a really strong pace. And it's all driven, what you see, by these business cases, right? That's the only way that technology adoption will find its way. Another very interesting metric is that the time to value also decreases. So the risk and the complexities that come with building an IoT solutions exponentially decline, and that means that there's like starting now is a really good idea, and because there have been many kind of in the last 7 years that paved the way by being kind of innovative and adventurous, but that result in a lot of kind of good devices in the market where you can directly go to market. If you look at the impact that you can make with IoT, and also for yourself, it sometimes feel like maybe you're working on a project, or you look at it and then you think, okay, like I'm just playing around with these sensors or something, but actually there's this thing where we see that IoT is really hard, but when you succeed, the reward is really high. And this is a great dynamic. So if you only look at our base, if let's say for the 1 million devices, this is an old slide. If we look at how much a device costs, including all the enterprise costs and all the kind of installation costs, think about $200 to $300. This is a very conservative and low estimate. If you, over the lifetime, that is over kind of 4 to 5 years. If you then look at the business cases drive it, and we see on average that the business case for making this money back is around 5 times, and it has to be, because what we said, the risk is high, so the potential reward should also be high. And that means that at the current base, at least for $1 billion in value creation, and we carry. And this is not always 1 billion cash, right? Like it's a lot of efficiency use cases. So this is also kind of gasoline not used, electricity not used, so resources not used and saved. That's really what we're talking about here. So sorry, do you have a question, Marco?
Well, there's one more question from the audience asking,
okay,
are there figures how many % of the TTN gateways are run by commercial operators and how many by private users? So
TTN is the community and TTI is not the community. So these are private gateways. At the moment, we're not really looking at gateways anymore. I actually don't know if it's something we share. So I actually also don't know the number on the top of my head. But you can imagine, kind of, if like a gateway serves around 10 devices, then you can do the math yourself. So yeah.
So yeah.
Sorry.
The question could be what's the scale of TTN versus TI?
Oh, what a TTN. So with regards to devices, is now I think 1 to 5. Like TTI is significantly better. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So IoT projects, 20% of the IoT projects succeed. So that's really positive. 80% has to try again. And if you, I don't know if you ever kind of if you're baking pancakes, and at least with me, always the first one fails, right? You don't let the pan, like you make all these mistakes. You don't let the pan get hot enough, or you make it too hot. It's not enough oil or too much oil. So this is always with IoT. So you have to design for failure. You're gonna fail. You have to embrace that, right? Specifically now, your student failing is very cheap. The further you get, the bigger things get. Failing gets very expensive. Means that you have to fail very fast. Very simple standard IT project kind of principles, like pull all the risks forward in IoT. It's really important to pull all the risks forward. If the riskiest part of your IoT project is actually getting business case positive, focus on do everything to do that. If the riskiest part of your IoT project is some kind of technology or kind of technology constraint, kind of focus on that. So, but you have to go into an iterative process, because nobody is successful with IoT without failure. This is like a law almost. And specifically, if you do this, be short, be iterative. Kill your darlings. Don't get in love with your own idea. It's not that good. It's not that great. It's only great if it works. So it's really about designing in, or kind of embracing that you're going to fail. And then you have a 20% chance to succeed. And only ones that try often will succeed on the long run. So some lessons. Failures most of the time now, and that's a good thing, is that one of the biggest challenges that technology adoption in enterprise has is the fact that enterprises are really slow to adopt technology. The amount of enterprises in the world that use kind of hypes or kind of technology that's already there for 10 years, like big data or all kinds of like smart data algorithms, many companies around the world still don't use it. They're still in old systems. They have very little incentive to adopt it. And people have very little incentive to risk their jobs. So in general, technology adoption by enterprise is really low. And more what we see is that IoT, kind of the reason why IoT fails is kind of skewing towards that, which is a good sign, because it's kind of will be joining all the other technologies. The thing with IoT, when successful, it always outperforms the initial business case, because a lot of business cases are built on okay, I know I can grab a data point, a temperature, or kind of the height of a river, or it affects if something has been flooded. When you gather that data and when you put them all in a pile, and I just gave the example of the water meters, if you just add it all together, all of a sudden you're going to kind of crunch that data, and you came for the individual data points, and all of a sudden kind of magic appears out of this kind of big data pile of sensor readings. So kind of there's this kind of additional reward that comes after being successful with the first one, is all of a sudden you have data to analyze, and you will be surprised by what you can do with that. If you're gonna start, descope, make it simple. Like if you're gonna want to build a network, want to get into IoT, make sure that you pick a business case for your first. What we just said, you have to try a lot of things. That you start with an anchor use case that works. So if, for instance, you want to address a retail market and you want to address maybe restaurants, I can think of 100 use cases with sensors to make the life of a restaurant owner better. It's really tempting just to go very wide. The problem is that you dilute. So don't go parallel, go serial on these opportunities, right? So just do one that you know will have the benefits, that will push the adoption through an adoption phase, which is very hard. Get the IoT network in, get IoT accepted, get this IoT use cases accepted, and then move on to the next. So that's another thing that I see kind of companies wanting to do too much at the same time, and then you won't reach operational excellence. You won't become a product leader. You will do kind of mediocre at many things instead of being excellent at one. This, let me see. Oh, this is another video. No, so this is the kind of end of the presentation. There was a video around something new we're going to launch, where we highlight a lot of business cases. I will share the link for that. But I think to recap is that IoT is incredibly enjoying to do. It's innovative. You get to work with all kinds of different companies, all kinds of different people, all kinds of different technologies, and the diversity is incredibly awesome. So if you want to kind of build your career in this, the other cool thing about it, it's also incredibly hard and gives you a lot of challenges. And making money with IoT is also hard. Once you nail it, the reward is there. So it's not for the faint-hearted, but it's a great industry to be in, and the maturity is coming. So yeah, that's really great. I hope that this was helpful, and I'm looking forward to answering your questions.
Super, thank you so much. I think your advice about going serial and not going parallel is something that I will use. I would even get a tattoo with that, because it's really a great advice, I think. So we have one question again from Gibson this time, and it's about the Thinkstack supporting AWS. And so he's asking if there's any plans to onboard other cloud providers and other plans to support edge deployments in some way.
Yeah. So as I said, there's many ways how you can deploy it. So we offer AWS IoT as integration in the AWS IoT platform, where there's like this deep integration with them. We offer AWS Marketplace, which is the hosting part. We offer AWS templates. We have a Kubernetes templates, which you also could use on AWS. We have that also for Azure, and we're working on different clouds. So yeah, all the support for everything is there. Yeah.
Super. I have one question from Ravindu asking about the high latency of data transmission in LoRaWAN, of course, due to the low power nature of devices. And does that impact the suitability of real-time systems that require immediate responses?
Yeah. So don't use it for critical real-time systems. So that's not where LoRaWAN is made for. Expect delays. Expect it. Of course, it is real time, but it never ever build a fire alarm with it, right? So never ever do a smoke detector or anything else. It optimizes for low power and long range, and that's where it good is. If you need a low latency kind of connection, you can use other technologies. If you need real time for critical applications, the suitability of wireless in general is something you should look at. But the sweet spot, I think also I get a lot of this kind of just to go kind of one step behind this question. I of course we always get a lot of questions around the technical capabilities, like, and what's the like, and then the question always goes like, how far can you stretch it, right? And for me, for instance, we get the question, how far can we stretch the battery life? How far can we stretch the range? How far, in this case, how far can we stretch the latency? And what you have to understand is this is a kind of a bare metal technology. See it like that. And for your business case, you have to build in a really large amount of margin, right? So you might be able to get this whole low latency working on your bench, so you can get this extreme low power. You can make it work on your workbench Or we have tried with the weather balloon, we've reached 802 kilometers range, right? But it is, in that sense, it's interesting because it says something about the boundaries of the technology, but it's also very, very risky because that's not the playing field, right? So to go back to your question, it depends, but I typically don't see LoRaWAN being successful in low latency real-time applications.
Super. I have like a kind of more general question, and it's about the role of TTI or TTN for academia. So as most of our listeners work in academia, so what is there in TTN or TTI for researchers?
Yeah, so so first of all, like the core is open source, so that's nice. So if you're a security researcher, that makes your and our life much easier. We have all the kind of like if you find something or if you want something, we're always open. We have the kind of usual email addresses that and we follow standards on how you would report that to us. So that's more for the security part. If you want to kind of like if you're more in the business cases or solutions, there's a lot of open content available on YouTube on the thingsnetwork.org. If you want to teach for universities, we have a free content to build up your course, and there's no fees for that. Also, we have free certification. So if your students want to get certified in their knowledge about LoRaWAN, we provide these certifications, and we can. These are for enterprises. They come at a cost, but for universities they are for free. So also there you can reach out to us. Furthermore, it's in the application side. So then maybe you saw a release that we did where kind of in the University of Sydney with a partner, they did some LoRaWAN network on Antarctica with a PhD that worked at the university and at VDA. So that's really like that. There you can just use the platform and don't really need us. We're always very interested to hear about your stories, of course, because it just excites us, and maybe it's something you want to share and get some exposure at the Thinkstack conference or one of our conferences around the world. So yeah, there's actually many things, and I think for everything it's just like it's really easy to kind of just send us an email, and then we can have a look if a collaboration is possible. But in general, that is a very we are really kind of embracing education and sharing knowledge, and you can leverage that at no fee.
Super exciting. So let's see if there's any other questions. So there's one more from my side, which is about the business model. So now there's other kind of solution that offer rewards for people that install gateways or that share gateways, and they get rewarded by having traffic through the gateways. So how does your solution compare to these other reward-based, I would say, systems?
Yeah. So we've been when we started Thinkstack Network, we actually had the hypothesis that putting up a gateway has some kind of economic value, and a few things happened. So the price of gateways dropped incredibly, right? So you can get your own outdoor gateway up for kind of $100 or $200. What other thing happened is that the kind of routing of the packets, what we saw at SF12 has very little business value because then it's not low power anymore. So it's actually not LP1. You could barely call it LP1. So what we saw when we did the Thinkstack network, actually there's no economic value in the network. If there's no economic value in the network and it's all in the business cases, then what basically is then any compensation model is irrelevant. And then because any compensation model requires very expensive transaction systems, and these transaction systems, we've experimented with few of them, and to run them, you need a massive scale of commercial adoption. So we just didn't see that viability. And what we rather kind of look at, and how we want to look at the internet and how we started, was more like, if your kind of birthday card, birthday letter you get, it was by coincidence kind of dropped off by your neighbors. I mean, your neighbor comes to you and say, hey, like, it's not my birthday, like, this is yours. So I think this is also how IP routing works. At some point, it's just like, if everyone adopts that network effect and everybody just makes money out of their own use cases, I think it will more go into this friendly peering and friendly forwarding. I mean, you got a message for me, I got a message for you. Let's just exchange. I believe much more in this model than adding a transactional model. And the market also has proven that that transactional model is not finding adoption on the demand side. It found adoption on the supply side, but that's not commercial proof of success.
And that's very interesting. And so then, how do you value these transactions? Not the transaction, the peering among partners.
The peering is more of kind of, and it has to emerge still yet. But what my prediction is that peering will be like IP peering, is that you come up with these partnerships and you just do these partnerships in good faith. And yeah, at some point, just in IP peering, if one benefits like kind of significantly more than the other party, then you should get on the table and just say, hey, like, can we find some? Let's see where we can balance this partnership. But doing it per message, it's I don't see that happening. And that's why we adopt this kind of transaction and peering, or at least say that we don't want to push any transactional model, because there are so many that we don't want to get in between. So what we do is we just say to our customers, if you want to connect your private networks or your gateways, feel free to do so, but just kind of do it together, and that can be perfectly fine. So yeah.
Sounds good. Okay, let's see if there's any other comment or question. If there's none, then thank you again so much for your talk. That was very inspiring and interesting. I learned quite a lot. So the next talk will be experiences on outdoor experiments with large wolves. So see you for the next seminar of our series. So thanks again and have a good day. Thank you.